If there's one thing I've learned from my years of restaurant experience, it's this. Fresh, local ingredients are extremely important if you want to eat healthy, delicious food. I'm Sebastiaan Zijp, chef and farmer at The Farmer's Hands. Welcome to the Farm Fresh Table, farm-to-table cooking in Buncombe County. In today's episode, we're heading out to Full Sun Farm and Sycamore Valley Farm Store in the Sandy Mush and Leicester communities of Buncombe County. The Sandy Mush community is a beautiful, rural, mostly agricultural district in the northwest corner of Buncombe County. One great way to experience this area is the Farm Heritage Trail. The Farm Heritage Trail is a scenic driving and cycling route through the communities of Alexander, Leicester, Newfound, and Sandy Mush. There are farm stops, conserved farms, and an ongoing calendar of events like hikes, farm-to-table dinners, educational opportunities, and fun activities for all ages. We're here at Full Sun Farm to pick up a CSA box. Why don't you give us a little history about the farm?
Let's see, I've been here since 1997 and felt amazingly fortunate to find this much flat land all together here in the mountains of western North Carolina. And so been farming here since then and gradually sort of adding little bit pieces, and we've kind of topped out at around 6 acres of cultivated land, and we do around 4 each year, and so we rotate out a couple acres each year to give it a rest. Nice. We've been selling at the North Asheville Tailgate Market since 97, and then started our CSA in 2001.
So tell me a little bit more about CSA. What is a CSA? What does CSA stand for? Why you guys are doing? Just give us a little.
Okay. So the CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture, and basically it's sort of like a subscription to the farm. You pay money up front, and then each week during the season, our main season is 23 weeks, you'll get a box of produce from the farm. As the season progresses and changes, you get different things each box. So you're really eating seasonally from basically mid-May until more or less mid-October. And
yours is just vegetables, or do you offer other things as well on your CSA?
Our regular CSA is just vegetables. Okay. We do offer a flower share add-on where you get a bouquet of flowers a week. We grow a lot of different flowers. We do a greens share if you want more greens as well.
Like lettuces and kales and cooking greens, or mostly?
Just kales, and unfortunately during the summer it kind of ends up being chard, but we also do include radicchio in that. Or if you're sick of our chard offering, you can have another head of lettuce. But yeah, it's like more greens than you get in the box. And then we also partner up with a neighbor farm, the Reeves Home Place, to offer eggs and meat.
So how do you connect with your customers besides markets?
Well, one of the ways that we hope to bring people out to the farm is we offer a working share where you commit to working 25 hours on the farm over the course of the season, and then you get like a discounted price off of the CSA share. And it really makes well, one from I think from the CSA members' point of view, you know, they really get out here. One, they see the farm, and two, they really see what we're out here doing, and what it's like. Like, you know, sometimes they'll be like, "It's raining. Should we still come?" And we're like, yes.
Yeah,
there's still stuff to do. Yeah. So, and then from our point of view, having the people out just adds like such great energy, because people come out and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is so beautiful," or "This is great," or you know. We have people bring out their kids. Lots of times people will sign up because they want to bring their kids out. And then the other share that we offer that I think helps us really connect with the customers is the market share, where people will give, you know, sort of, set up almost like an account with us. And then over the course of the summer, they just come to the stand and they buy what they want. So that sort of gets around some of those issues that people have with CSA, which is choice, vacation, you know, timing.
Right, if they're not there for a week or two.
Exactly.
Right, gotcha. Well, thank you so much for showing us around your beautiful farm, and we're really excited to see what you have in your CSA box for us this week.
You're so welcome. Thank you for coming out today.
Absolutely. We're making a pit stop at Sycamore Valley Farm Store to pick up some bacon. The farm store is a real cornerstone in the Leicester community. Family owned and operated, they have fresh and local produce, meat, eggs, honey, and Amish products. So we're back here at the farm, at the farmer's hands, and we've got our CSA box from Full Sun Farm. Let's find out what we have inside. Oh boy. Got a nice bunch of Swiss chard, a couple heads of lettuce. Those look great. Ooh, look at this tiny little watermelon. How wonderful. Ooh, even honey? Wow, that's pretty nice. Beautiful ripe tomatoes. A bunch of carrots. Look at all this good stuff. Peppers. Onions. A couple heads of garlic. Ooh, how exciting. We're definitely going to be using this. There's really nice looking corn in here. So today, with this wonderful selection of vegetables, we're going to be making a few things. We won't be using all of this because this food is meant for about a week, but I think we're going to make some really simple, quick sauteed chard with a little bit of bacon in there. We'll make a simple tomato salad, just fresh tomatoes. We'll use some of these red onions in here. We'll pickle them, and then we're going to make corn chowder with this fresh corn. So we're using the corn, these peppers, and some of the onions and garlic in there for our corn chowder. So we're going to start by making our corn chowder. So the first thing we're going to need to do is shuck our corn, and it's super easy. Basically, you're going to be pulling off just all the outer leaves there, and obviously you get these hairs on there, which I usually just end up rubbing off. And we'll hold off to those on the side, and we'll go through all of these. So all our corn has been shucked. It's a really nice, beautiful bicolor corn. It looks really good. I'm gonna save all the outer leaves, and we're gonna be feeding it into our chickens. They love it. You can also put it in the compost. You don't have to throw it away. And once I've taken all the kernels off the cob, I'll show you a little trick in a second for that. You can use the core can be used to make corn stock. You just basically put the cores into a pot of water and simmer it for about 20 minutes, and you could use that as your base for a corn chowder or corn soup or anything like that. So I'll probably hold on to those after we're done and make a little batch of corn stock. So a super fun, handy, easy way to get the kernels off the cob is I have a big bowl, and inside this big bowl I have a smaller bowl turned upside down. This one has a nice flat part to it, and this way you can kind of rest your ear of corn on top of there, and all the kernels will fall off of here and they won't go flying all over the place, because sometimes when you do this it ends up being a little bit of a mess. So I'm just going to gently slice down and cut all these kernels off this ear of corn. As you see, they just fall right down into this bowl. And of course, watch your fingers when you're doing this. So for this batch of chowder we're making, we're using 6 ears of corn. This will be enough for 4 to 6 people for a meal. So we've got our 6 ears of corn shucked. I'm gonna save half of this for in the chowder, so we actually have little bits of corn in there. The other half I'm gonna blend in the blender with about 2 cups of milk, and this will kind of create a nice thick corn broth that will give the chowder a lot of body. So we're gonna prep all the other ingredients for our corn chowder. That includes bacon. We're going to put some of the lovely onions and garlic from the CSA box, as well as one of these lovely sweet peppers in there. For the bacon, just going to cut it into little strips. It'll render down quite a bit, so don't cut it too small. I'm slicing up 4 slices of bacon. If you like more bacon in your chowder, go for it. We're using 4 slices today. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to dice up 1 onion. Next, I'm going to be slicing up some garlic. You can use as much as you like. I'm going to be using about 4 cloves of garlic. I think a lot of garlic is really nice in a chowder. But if you don't want that much garlic, feel free to do a little less. I would say at least 2, but we're going to go with 4. Next, I'm going to dice up our one of these sweet peppers that we got in our CSA box. Super simple, just going to take the end off and then take the seeds out, and we're dice it fine. So a corn chowder wouldn't be complete without some potatoes in there. So I'm going to take a few potatoes that we grew and just peel them up and cut them into kind of 1/2 inch or so dice. So we ended up with about 2 cups of corn, whole corn kernels. The other 2 cups were blended. So I'm doing 3 potatoes for that amount of corn. It's corn chowder, not potato chowder. So we want to make sure that it's not overly potato-y. We're going to start by rendering out our bacon. I'm going to just put a little bit of olive oil in our pot here. So I'm using a heavy bottom pot for this because of all the starches and the sugars from the corn and the potatoes. You don't want to end up getting anything to burn, and so a heavy bottom pot is important. And we're going to render out this bacon till it's pretty crispy, and then we'll take it out of the pan, and then we'll saute all our peppers, onions, and garlic in that rendered bacon fat. Our bacon is rendered out really nicely. It's starting to get nice and crisp, and so I'm going to take our bacon out and just put it on a plate here. Just put it on a plate, and we'll hold on to it till later. If you wanted to make this a vegetarian option, you would basically start right here. You'd start with a hot pot with some olive oil in there, and you would just start off by sauteing your peppers, garlic, and your onions. So I'm adding diced onions, chopped garlic, and our diced peppers to this pot. Oh, that smells so good already. Give that a little stir. And we're basically just going to sweat this out till the onions and the peppers start to soften up a little bit. We will season this at this point with just a pinch of salt. This will help soften the veggies, and it will also make sure that you've got a nice bit of seasoning at the very beginning. So our vegetables have been sweating down for about 10 minutes. Sweating refers to cooking slowly with a little bit of salt in there, so you extract the moisture from there. We're not adding any color to these vegetables. We just want to cook them down and get them soft. And at this point, we'll be adding basically the rest of the ingredients for our chowder. I'm going to start by adding our pureed corn and milk base here. Trying to get all this good stuff out of here. We're going to add our corn and our potatoes. And depending on the time of year and how fresh your corn is, the starch levels will be a little different. So if this looks really loose or really thick, you can add or not add any chicken stock to it. I think that this is kind of perfect. It's going to thicken up quite a bit as it cooks down. We're also going to add our bacon back and let that cook in there the whole time. Last thing I'm going to do before we put the lid on is I'm going to just give it a few turns of black pepper. And I really like quite a lot of black pepper in my chowder. It adds a nice little bit of heat to it. You don't necessarily have to do that. That's a personal preference. I'm going to turn the heat down to low and then put a lid on this pot, and we're just going to let it simmer for about half an hour to 45 minutes. Checking to see if the potatoes are done. Once potatoes are done, we'll taste it for seasoning and should be good to go.
For additional episodes of Farm Fresh Table and more great original programming from Buncombe County, check us out at buncombecounty.org/BCTV or Charter Channel 192. Coming up, sliced tomato salad with pickled red onions and sauteed Swiss chard.
So because we've got some nice, red onions in our box, and one of my favorite things to make with red onions is pickled red onions. They're extremely versatile, and for today we're going to be making them on our tomato salad. But you can use these on any kind of salad. You can put them on a sandwich. You can eat them just as they are, and it's a really simple, quick pickle, also known as a refrigerator pickle. Basically what we'll do is we'll slice these. I'm going to make a pickling base of water, vinegar, sugar, and salt, bring that to a boil, and it's going to get poured over our sliced onions. And you can use this same technique for carrots, beets, radishes, cucumbers, fennel, kind of anything you can imagine. You can pickle with this basic pickling liquid and this basic quick pickle technique. So I like slicing these very, very thin. You can slice them a little thicker if you want, but I prefer them really nice and thin. So we're going to put our sliced onions in a heat-proof bowl here. I prefer a little metal bowl just because we're going to be pouring a boiling liquid over them. So we're going to make our pickling base. It's really, really simple. I've got a cup of apple cider vinegar. You can use plain white vinegar if you prefer as well. We've got 2 cups of water. We've got 1/8 of a cup of salt and 1/4 cup of sugar. We're going to let it come up to a boil, and then I'm going to pour it over our sliced red onions. So our pickling base has come up to a boil. I'm going to turn off our element here, and I'm just going to pour this liquid over our red onions. And these I'm just going to leave sitting like this till they've come to room temperature. At that point they're ready to use right away, or they get a little bit better if they sit overnight in the fridge. So this is something you would want to do the day before. But they are technically ready as soon as they comes back to room temperature. It's peak tomato season right now, and there's just so many fun things you can do with them. One of my favorite things to do is just to make a really simple tomato salad. So we've got these nice, simple, beautiful red tomatoes here, and we're going to season them with basil, the pickled red onions we made, and this is what they end up looking like after they've cooled down and been in the fridge for a few days. As you can see, they're really nice, beautiful, bright pink, so they'll look really nice on our salad. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take our tomatoes, I'm going to take a little bit of the core out. And you can have fun with how you want to cut these. You can cut them into slices like I am, or you can cut them into bigger wedges, you can cut them into rounds, whatever you like is up to you. If you have a mix of tomatoes from your CSA box or out of your garden, you can slice them all in different shapes and sizes depending on the kind of tomato you have. It's nice to just have some slicers like this, and then if you have a few cherry tomatoes or pear tomatoes or smaller tomatoes, cut those in half or keep them whole and put them on there as well. All we're going to do with these sliced tomatoes is we're just going to scatter them in a single layer on our big platter here. And then we're going to season them with some salt. And just give a nice even spread of salt on there. And I like my tomatoes a little bit on the salty side. I think they really like a little bit of salt, but that's up to you as well. We're going to give it a nice dose of fresh cracked black pepper. And then we're going to drizzle some nice fresh olive oil over top. And then we're going to take our some of these pickled red onions. And if a little bit of the juice comes with them is good, because that's nice flavored vinegar and it'll add a little bit of tartness and tanginess to your salad. And we're just going to take them and scatter them over top. Super simple. And then last, we're going to take some really nice fresh basil leaves from the garden, and we're going to take some of the bigger ones, pile them in a little pile in your fingers, and then just tear them up and spread them on top. If you wanted to make this even a little bit more exciting, not that it really needs it, you can get some cheese involved in here. You can either get a little bit of mozzarella put it on there. I really like this particular salad with some salty feta. Is really, really, really yummy, but also just like this, super simple, all about the tomatoes, a little bit of acidity in there from the pickled onions, salt, pepper, olive oil, kind of perfect. Don't forget to keep an eye on your chowder. Stir it every once in a while because of all the sugars and starches in there. It might stick to the bottom, so make sure you stir it every 10-15 minutes or so. We have this lovely bunch of Swiss chard. We got this in our CSA box, and this is something we'll see quite often in CSA boxes around here as well as at markets. It's an easy to grow vegetable. It grows throughout the summer here, fall and spring, so you see it very often. So all we really need to do with this Swiss chard is I'm going to take the ribs out. And Swiss chard, so all I really do is I grab the leaves and the stalk and I just pull the tender part off the stems. You can absolutely use this. I really like pickling it, and you can use the same basic technique we used for the red onions earlier. For this, you can either also dice it small and saute it along with your greens. In this case, we're just gonna leave it separately, and we're just gonna do the greens. Swiss chard greens are quite similar to spinach. They cook at about the same rate. They have got a similar flavor, but they're available year-round. Spinach is much more of a spring and fall/winter green, and this is something that you will have around all year. So after I've taken the ribs off, which again we can save for later, I'm just going to give these a rough chop. I don't need to cut. They're going to cook down quite quickly, so we don't really need to cut them much smaller than that. This technique I'll be showing with the Swiss chard, you can apply it to kale, you can apply it to collards. You can use it for cabbage, you can use mustard greens, turnip greens, any kind of cooking green that you are getting in your CSA box from the market or from your own garden. You can just use this really quick saute method and you'll end up with something really yummy and delicious. And what we're going to be cooking these with is some bacon and garlic. And again, if you wanted to make this a vegetarian dish, skip the bacon and just go straight to sauteing some garlic and your greens. We'll start by rendering our bacon. So our bacon is rendered out pretty, as far as I like it. You can take it a little further if you like your bacon crispy. I like it just with still a little bit of bite to it. I'm going to pour off just a little bit of this bacon grease here because it's a little bit much for our dish here. You can save that for anything else you like bacon grease for. I'm going to add our garlic to our bacon. I'm also going to give it a few turns of our peppermill. At this point, I like to do the seasoning all along with this. So once the Swiss chard goes in, all you have to do is saute it and it's ready to go. So I'm going to give it a small pinch of salt. You know, the bacon has salt in it, so we don't need much more, but just a little bit helps. And all we're really going to do here is just kind of gently soften up that garlic just a little bit before we add our Swiss chard. And greens like this, especially chard, will cook down quite a bit. So it's always nice to start with a bit more than you think. Greens like kales and collards, they will cook down a little bit less, and they will also need just a little bit more cooking than either spinach or Swiss chard, or a little bit of a lighter green like this. So I'm seeing a little bit of color on my garlic, so at this point I want to add our chard to the pan. We're just going to put the Swiss chard in a bowl. Make sure you scrape up all those tasty little bits of bacon and garlic. This is such a simple, easy, quick dish to do that works really well as a side to just about anything. So our chowder has cooked for about 45 minutes. I tested the potatoes and they're super tender, starting to fall apart a little bit in there, which is nice. You want that so it makes a nice creamy chowder. The last thing we really want to do with this is we're just going to take some fresh parsley, and I'm just going to chop it up rough and sprinkle it on top. It adds a little bit of color, but I also like just the really nice bright freshness of some fresh chopped parsley on there. So we were able to make a really nice, simple, fresh summer meal with some of the ingredients we got in our CSA box today. Swiss chard sauteed with bacon and garlic. We have our corn chowder that's got some of the onions, the garlic, the peppers, the corn all in there from the CSA box from Full Sun Farm. And then we also have a really nice, simple, fresh, bright tomato salad with those pickled red onions in there. We also got, as Vanessa mentioned, she offers a flower CSA or an addition to their CSA, and so she gave us this beautiful bouquet of flowers. Can't wait to try all of this.